All right, tap. Okay. Tap. Go to 50. Tap. Good, wait a second. Right, now relax, good. Wait a moment, and tap. 55. Tap. Tap. There you go, and then relax, good. Tap. That's just frustration. Up on your leash, and then relax. Good. We're gonna start about there. Okay. So 30 to 55. I could see that because when you tapped him earlier, like he was completely unfazed. I saw the contraction. You have good contact, but the environment, he was like whatever. Okay. As we start the walking process, this should start to dip down. But he's coming in. He's overstimulated with all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And then we're needing to counter him. But because he's he's wanting to move. And having them be stationary is conflicting to that, right? So that's where all that vocalization, that whining, right now when you tap them because you're like, hey, just sit still and behave yourself. And that, right, it was just frustration, okay? How'd it go this week?
I think it went pretty well. I think that I've been walking in the range of like 35-ish.
Okay.
I haven't really come across a lot of dogs for whatever reason. I think he's been doing well, although I'm afraid that he doesn't want to go on walks now. Like he actually resisted me horribly just the other day after, almost a week of doing this. He was horrible. Like I thought he was going to bite me.
What were you saying?
So he doesn't want to get the collar put on. We have to bribe him with a treat to put both the collars on.
Okay.
Or even just to get him to come to us. Like you have to have a treat, or else he will go down on the ground and you come to get him and he'll growl. I got the collars on him, got him out the front door and started to go down the stairs. He reared up against the door and was like, no way am I going. Sure. So then Steve came out to help me get him down the stairs and said, come on, let's go. And so we went, but that was seemed like a real step backward.
Not so much a step backward, is part of the process. Is because now you have a tool that can actually make him do something. Like right now you actually made him relax and calm down. Does that make sense? So now that you have a tool that allows you to override him, now walks aren't as fun. Does that make sense? Because before he was doing whatever he wanted, being reactive, pulling, all that stuff, right? He was controlling it. And then you take away that control and you're like, now here's discipline, now here's rules, and now he's like, well, now I don't like it this much, right? That's not out of the ordinary, it's uncommon. So a couple things we can do here. One would be, instead of like trying to call him to collar him, I already just go, right, with nothing in my hands but like, let's say the leash. And I use high value stuff, turkey, bologna, sausage, cheese, hot dog, whatever you're gonna use. And I just go, treat, clip his leash, treat, walk over to where the collar is, pick it up, treat, put it on, treat, right? The other collar, pick it up. So in the beginning, yes, positive is good, okay? I continue with that. But if you're using regular dog treats, I would escalate the value of them, okay? And I would isolate these rewards only for this exercise, okay? The next thing that you can do is throughout the day, you can show him the collar, toss him a piece of hot dog, and then put it in the drawer, okay? Bring out the prong collar, toss him a piece of hot dog, right? So it's not guaranteed you're gonna wear this. You can also put it on him and then not do anything with him. Because if it's his association right now is when we go on a walk, we're gonna put this on and this is gonna happen, okay? So now you're breaking up that pattern and it's like, it's not a guarantee. But also the positive, like every time I see this thing, this is the only time I ever get, beef jerky. So then it incentivizes him, okay? Now, when he was growling or anything, were you talking to him at all?
I think I was just saying, come on, let's go.
Yeah, so we don't want to do that either. Okay. Because energy like that stimulates the brain, creates more growly, okay? So like I had a client the other day whose dog bit somebody. The dog's not aggressive, it was just a territorial thing. And the person was like, hey, it's okay, it's me. And then the dog bit. And I go, that's why.
Its owner?
Bit the guest, okay? And the dog it's seen as friendly, is social. She's at my daycare today. Never had any issues with her. She's like 1.5 years, 2 years old. And she's like, she bit someone for the first time today. She didn't break skin, she didn't puncture, it was just a nip. And the first thing I asked was the person who came in baby talking to her? And she said, yeah. I'm like, that's why he got bit. Because it stimulates the brain and the dog's unsure. And it's all this energy because we think it's friendly, but the dog is like, what the hell's the matter with you? Right? So whenever you see us do stuff or whenever we work with aggression, it's always quiet, okay? Because we don't want to put more energy in an already energized situation.
Like a harsh reprimand or like a harsh...
Yeah, definitely not harsh either. Because
Okay.
that's another thing that people deal with is that they'll be like, no, bad dog. And the dog gets even more aggressive. And I go, because you're putting out negative energy. Because you're trying to use sound to control the situation, but dogs don't use sound. They use physicality, right? Like the growling is a warning, technically, right?
Right.
But they follow through with physicality. So that's what this allows us to do, you know? So I'm never loud, I don't do firm voices. I just do normal tones. Sit, down, place, heel. You'll never hear me go, heel, sit, because it creates negative energy, okay? And then so when people ask me, does e-collar create issues? I go, no, it's the energy behind the e-collar. If the person's like, oh, I'm sorry, but we have to train, right? Negative energy. The dog's like, well, if you don't like it, I don't like it. Or, no, don't do that. Blast. It's the no, don't do that. The anger behind the harsh correction that actually creates the problem.
Yeah, I'm usually talking to him like, come on, buddy, let's go. Let's, you know.
I just do stuff, yeah. You know, I'm not saying you can't talk to your dog, but definitely in situations where you want him to be calmer. So actually during our first session, remember when he was doing well and you were like kind of, he was praising and he started to get stimulated and then he was making mistakes, right? So because he's already a stimulated type of dog, right? That's why when you came here, he was like up here.
Yeah.
And we right away nipped it
in the car, like just before we even parked, he was.
Right. So he's already at a 4 to 5. So when you're talking to him, you're bringing him to 6 to 7, okay? So what I would do is like today when you go home, grab the collar, feed, remove it, feed, grab the other one, feed, remove it, feed, right? And you're not so much bribing them, you're just trying to like, again, create a positive association, that's fine. Bribing would be like, come here, buddy, come put it on, right? I just, as best as I can, do it and then feed, okay?
Hey.
So I'm making him work before he gets the payment, okay? If you get into a situation where he's like growling and you don't feel comfortable, okay? Dogs are on and off. So right there, he's on because you're in his space and he knows what you're trying to do. If you remove yourself, he should just turn off and go off to do something else, okay? So I go, okay, that approach didn't work. 15 minutes later, he's completely forgot about it, okay? Not like change it up where you're in the kitchen, you have your leash ready, you open up a drawer where his treats are or something, he comes running like, hey, what's going on? Feed him, grab the leash, clip him while he's eating, let's go, then put the collar on, and then so you're changing the process, okay? I'm only doing that just so you don't escalate a situation. The only time I've ever had a dog bite an owner for something is because there was already aggression towards the owner there anyways. The dog, that's why they're coming to me, okay?
Right.
Dogs becoming defensive over putting the collar on to the extent that they would bite their owner.
We get a few warning growls from him. Like, he'll get in the bed before us, and if he's like lying on my side, I'll like go to move him, and he like turns and growls. And of course, I just dominate through that. I just literally push him over, and he has never bitten me, but he pretends like he's going to. So I don't know if that's like
so the way I put
real
it,
aggressive move, or if he's just.
It's like a kid talking back to you. You're like, hey, get off the bed. They're like, I don't wanna. Like, get off the bed, right? And then you push them, hey, like, I don't want, right?
Yeah.
Same thing, but dogs will follow through, okay? Just because he hasn't doesn't mean he won't, okay? And that's just so that, realistically speaking, I've heard that a lot of times from owners, and then they get bit. I actually literally just posted a video an hour ago of someone with the selfie video with the Rottweiler going, oh, he always does this, he's never bitten me, literally bites her in the face during the video. Yeah.
Wow.
But she probably did it like 1,000 times, and then the dog goes, I'm not gonna do it, right? So it's just like with people, they can always have a change of heart.
Right.
So what I do is that we would want to address by teaching them how to get off of furniture through a cue so that you're not having to power through him. I'm not against it, but let's say he did become aggressive towards you. How would you handle it?
I'd probably freak out.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't be a good response. I'd probably scream at him and yell and escalate it. And
but if he's becoming physically aggressive,
he's never become. I mean, has he ever?
But that's not the question. I'm saying
Okay,
if he became physically aggressive, what would you do?
I would. Well, it would depend. If he latched onto me, I'd probably punch him.
Okay. Yeah.
And kick him.
So and you have a dog coming this way, just so you know. So the reason why I say that.
Should I click him for looking?
Give a tap. Right, tap. And then relax. Right, good. Wait a moment. And we're at what number?
55.
Good. Yeah, he disengaged. Let's see. A little bit of watching here. He's he's semi-alert, and he disengages. Good. So the reason why I asked that is I'm not calling your dog an aggressive dog, right? Aggression is not a characteristic dogs are born with or without. It's like saying, oh, my kid's not an angry kid. But everybody gets angry, right? It's just we're not angry all the time. So that's what I define a dog as, is aggressive for anything and everything very quickly. They always resort to that as an answer.
I wouldn't call him an aggressive dog. I would call him reactive, and then that bed thing it's just been, since we got him, and he'd been kind of kicked through multiple households. So.
Sure, but he's technically bullying, is what that is. Okay. He's saying, don't tell me what to do with the bed, okay? But here, when I come into a home, whenever I correct the dog, whenever I do anything, my anticipation is this dog might become defensive and come bite me. This is a dog bite, okay? This is a dog that didn't want to go in the kennel, okay? And this is with 10 years of experience behind me, okay? He's a Great Dane. The dog's perfectly fine. He's friendly. He comes to our daycare. He plays. He boards with us. We've had no issues with him. But the first day he came to us, this is what happened, okay? Because he didn't want to go in the kennel. But not an aggressive dog. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the reason why I say that is people will push things, not expecting because they've not seen it.
Right.
And then when it happens, they freak out.
Right.
But then they don't know how to respond. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would act aggressive back. Like I said, I'd probably punch him.
Yeah.
Just out of a reaction.
And I'm going to tell you, it's okay. You're allowed to defend yourself. Okay? I've had dogs come after me and I've kicked them, but you wouldn't yell and scream. Okay? You would leave that out the picture. Because if he comes after you and you did a firm kick to the chest and he goes, ah! And he jumps back and he's like, oh, shit. You can be physical too. And he walks away. And then you walk away. It's done. Okay? But now he's just learned, if I try to escalate from the growl, you will correct me. But people tend to panic. So then the dog goes, ha, I gotcha.
I would have been the panic person.
Right? So that's why we had that conversation, because I want to make sure that you're aware. If you ever push something like that, in the back of your mind, I always tell people, it's very easy to get complacent. I've never seen the dog do it. Doesn't mean the dog can't.
Right.
Okay? So I keep with the food stuff, keep with what you've been doing in terms of that. Leave energy out of it. Okay? Just do what you're gonna do. Assert yourself.
Just like pretty much be neutral throughout all of that. While we're like in training.
Neutral or upbeat. Okay? But in the moment of putting the collar on, if he's growling, I'm gonna be like, all right, buddy, we're gonna put the burn. No, right? We don't need energy there. Okay. But like if he's walking and well, technically for him, you would be neutral because last time we put in energy, he escalated, right? But as you go along and he learns better impulse control, being upbeat is just like being positive, not being like, oh, I hate this. Just like, all right, we're doing this and this is our walk, right? Just it's indifferent or positive energy, okay? Does that make sense?
I had a little bit of a different experience with him. I was trying to go through it briefly.
Okay.
So the first day I took him out, I zapped the crap out of him.
Okay.
And I got exactly what I wanted, but he was like, then the next day when I wanted to put it on him, he was like, no way, that was a torture chamber, and he wouldn't.
Oh, okay. So
then I said, okay, I'm gonna get a cookie, and so I can get him in and out of the thing pretty easily. I just go get a cookie, I stick it up on this ledge where the leashes hang. It's like a ledge with hooks. I stick it up there, and he knows it's sitting up there, and he lets me put everything on, no problems, because he knows that cookie's waiting for him.
Sure.
And then I just grab the cookie, we go out, and I give him the cookie once we're outside. And that's been working pretty well. I've gotten pretty good response out of him. I've been walking him up to other dogs and sitting him, you know, and then I've also been walking him past the dog park. There's a park behind our house. It's not a dog park, but there's a lot of dogs in it.
Sure.
And I've been walking him past it, and he can walk past it without engaging for the most part.
Okay.
Not right next to it, but
yeah.
But like I'm one end of the
10 feet away
sidewalk, and here's
maybe.
the fence, and he can walk past it. I've done it with him 3 or 4 times now, and you know I have to zap him sometimes. And then on the walks in general, I've been trying not to zap him as much because I felt like I zapped him so much that first day that he was like, fuck you, this is a torture.
Sure, which can play into the averseness into it, right?
Yeah.
So when you were remoting him the first time, what was the remoting for?
Anything that I didn't like at
Okay.
all. He was gonna, if he wasn't right here with me,
Okay.
which he never is.
then
which,
I was
that's a
zapping
problem.
him until
Sure.
he would just basically hover right here, and that was just too much because it was,
So-
you know, just too much.
What was your number?
So you know what we had
50.
Okay.
we had to go back and look at somebody's posted video, like lesson number 1, because I remembered you saying that the turn
Yep.
creates the incorrect behavior, so then you tap as you're doing an abrupt turn.
So
when
technically-
he's getting ahead.
Yeah, so technically with the turn, he gets ahead, he's already not paying attention.
Right.
Right? That's when the turn happens.
Right.
Now, if he's with you and you're turning to create an incorrect behavior, that's different.
Now he was ahead.
Okay.
And Steve was zapping the shit out of him because he was still ahead of him. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to turn.
That is correct.
And then, you know, we both had very different views on what it was supposed to be. So we looked on a previous video, and it, like within the first 5 minutes of that training.
Yeah, his video's now up. I got like 40 clients now. So I'm a little bit delayed on putting them up. But yes, you would turn whenever he passes you, always in a 180 turn to the right.
And that's a constant problem with him. He's
Yes.
always ahead.
So do you know what the answer is?
I keep turning it up.
And what's the
Turn-
highest you've been?
Sorry?
What's the highest you've been?
You know, I have to say 40, 45 is the highest I've gone.
Okay, and then what are we at right now?
We're at 55.
Correct. Okay. So right there, you have the right idea. So do you remember my 3 correction rule?
Yes.
What is that 3 correction rule?
If you have to correct him 3 times on a particular level, you go out 5.
That is correct, right? So when you hit that 40 to 45 and he was still going, why not 50, 55, 60?
I think by then we've probably gotten towards the end of the walk and he's better.
Okay, how long are your walks?
Anywhere from like 20 minutes to a half hour.
Okay, because I would think, and I mean, it could, obviously I'm not watching, but within usually the first 5 minutes is when all that stuff is happening, and then it's like, oh, 65. And then you do your last 15 minutes, and then he's like near perfect.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So I should really crank it. I probably am not as, I probably lose count of the corrections that
Sure.
I'm making, and after a certain number of corrections, I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's the free dogs, you know, the breaks that we give him. Like, what percentage of a walk should be break time and what time should be up to?
I do 80-20. 80% work, 20% play.
Even in the morning, because I get him in like he gets the first morning walk where he's been sleeping all night and he's got to do more business.
Sure.
So on that one, I've been giving him more time because like that's typical for him to go, and he might poop twice. He might pee multiple times.
Sure,
so I've been giving him a little bit more on that one because it's just, you know.
Yeah, it's just a general rule. You know, like let's say in the morning, you're gonna be working all day, and it's like we got to make sure you potty, like, and it's a 20-minute thing, and you give them 10 minutes and 10 minutes of structured heel. That's fine, but the general rule is 80-20, because your dog becomes what you practice.
I'm more in that range.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I've gotten better results for what I want than I think you feel you've got for what you want. But I might have gone a little bit more lenient to let him pee and poop a little bit more when he's on the walk. But when I want him to,
he poops on demand.
He hups too. He pulls over when another dog happens. He has not gone off on another dog, and he can walk by the park. So, but I would say also, the other thing I would tell you is probably this is wrong, but I have said some things to him at times, and I've also used this thing at times. So it's been kind of a combination of a few things I've said, the choker and the zapper, but I've gotten more or less what I want.
You're talking about like some like cues, like like no or like
sit.
Sure.
Get over here, this way.
Sure.
Sit down. When the dogs are coming,
Yeah.
When we're walking along and he's looking at the don't look, move it.
Sure.
Kind of things like that. And he doesn't really know what a lot of words mean, but he gets the inference by the tone. I think a little bit.
Is he allowed to lie down?
Lightly up, tap.
Hey.
He's not allowed?
Yeah, tap. Lightly up, tap on your collar.
Get him up.
Tap.
Come on, Hank, get up.
So the reason why that's not allowed is because in his eyes, right now you put him in a sitting position, right? Even though you didn't say sit, that is what you technically commanded through the pressure, is if he starts to lay down and you allow it, is if he can lay down and crawl, then he can lunge and bark on his choice, right? That's why when he's in obedience mode, it's black and white. If he's on break time, it's sure you can play and run, poop, pee, but don't bark at dogs still, And that dogs thrive in black and white, okay? Because that's their world. We create gray area, and that's where we get problems, okay? So it sounds like we've made progress. It's just we also got some like kind of other things. In terms of the steps or the stairs where he didn't want to move forward, you would just lightly pull the leash and remote and bump it, because that's resistance. And he has to make...
Because I was afraid I would just escalate his reaction.
As long, if you give him the slack.
I was pulling with the choke collar.
Yeah, because he has to mentally make the decision, okay? It's resistance, I see it all the time. So he's going, screw this, I'm not going on the walk, right? So I just lightly pull 30, 35, like we did here, 40, 45,
I think
55.
Once you got that collar on him, the trick is getting the collar on him. But once you got it on him, if you really zap the crap out of him, he'll do what you want. The thing is, you don't want to zap the crap out of him and make it torture.
Well, it's not so much zap the crap out of him, it's discipline when it's needed, right? Because I'm very generous with remoting, but it's because I'm putting it in at places where the dog goes, okay, I get why that happened. That's why that turnaround is so important, because he's like, why am I being remoted? Oh, you're going that way, right? As opposed to him turning around, he's like, hey, keep up, slowpoke.
The first few days, we barely got anywhere. I was looping, I was making just loops constantly to, get him. But he's still ahead, so I guess I just have to crank that number up until...
So now we're at 55.
Yeah.
Right? And that was just to get him to sit still, but go from earlier when you had just showed up and how vocal he was, and then now.
Yeah.
Right? And the people have walked by with their dogs and stuff, and he's just hanging out. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to do a quick review. I'm going to have you show me what you've been practicing first, and then we're going to move on to the second part, okay? So whenever you're ready, go ahead and just start moving. Good. Yeah, and relax your leash. Like that. Good. Forward. Yep. Turn. Tap. Turn. Tap. Tap. Let's go to 60. So that's our 3-turn rule there, right?
8.
So even though we're in like warm-up mode, rule still applies. Good turn. Good. Keep forward, tap. There he goes. Good. Now slow walk here. Turn. Tap. There you go. Slow turn. Slow walk, but keep forward. Yeah, keep that pace. Good. Turn, tap. Okay, we're at 2 turns. Good turn. Go ahead and pick up your pace a little. Turn, tap, 65. Good. Can you feel them like getting a little bit better each time as we bump it? Yep. Tap. Good. Good. Now slow walk here. And stop. tap, good. So right there, you're about like 85, 90%. Because you did your job, you slowed down for that stop, but he still went ahead of you about a foot. That shows you where his engagement is, okay? So here, what I'm picking up is, because in the first week we always start low, we work our way up because we're trying to learn the system. Now I can see here, as soon as you showed up on that 30, it was having no effect on him. And now we're at 65, right? So now what I would do is I would start my walks probably 50. So now I'm gonna get to that number faster. We're gonna do that for a week, okay? Expect to see some more turning. And then next time I see you, you might have like, hey Jesse, 70. And we're probably gonna figure that out today. You might say like 70, Jesse, man, he's perfect. But if you always start at like 15, you're never gonna get to 70.
I haven't been starting at 15, I've been starting around 20.
20? Sure.
20, 25, and
so
I've not been turning it up that much.
Sure. So that's why I do that 3-tap rule, because it forces people, right? It's like, okay, I've done 3 turns, he's still pulling, Jesse said 5 levels, right? So if keeping count, of course, right, and all that, once you get used to it, it's just second nature. But then once you figure out like, oh yeah, 70 is his perfect number, you just walk out the door at 70 then. Right? I wouldn't start at 25 anymore because now he's going to just wait till 70 to happen before he behaves himself.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So we're going to do a couple more, then we'll swap real quick. So go ahead and walk. Good. Now slow walk again. And slower. And stop. Much better, okay? So now you're at like 95%. Forward. Good turn. He turned with you so that we don't do anything. And you're gonna slow walk again, slower. Slower, and stop. Right there. Give a tap, and relax. Okay, was there a tap for that sit? Okay, so let's go and swap handlers.
Is that the right thing to do?
Him getting up and stuff?
You just yanked it.
Oh, technically no. Good. Good. Go ahead and, slow down and then speed up. Good. Give a little bit more slack here. Like a foot. Good. Keep your arm relaxed. There we go. But you see how his demeanor has changed now?
Will his ears always be pinned back like that?
So it's not that he's scared, it's that he's calm.
I was curious about the ears because I noticed his ears just are like...
Ears back are good.
Oh, okay.
Ears back is calm. Okay, so right there when something, that dog maybe, his ears perked up, that's alert. You don't want alert, okay? Especially when you have a reactive dog, you want passive. Now slow, slower, and stop. Okay, so yeah, ears back isn't a bad thing. Okay, it's one thing for him to be ears back and scared, right? Because of what we're doing, but this is, look at him, his face is nice and relaxed, his ears are back, his posture is up, but he's not shaking or anything. That's good. Okay? So, he's not always going to be happy. And that's something that I think people get too caught up with is like, oh, but the dog's not happy, right? And this isn't about happy or anything, this is just calm. But I get dogs that are happy, but then the owner's not happy,
Right.
And discipline, like I didn't walk away from being spanked smiling.
Well, yeah, he's pretty happy when he's running around trying to bite your sleeve.
Yeah. Is that making you happy? No. So don't worry about this guy because he doesn't think like we do. Okay. So all that looked good. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add the verbal cue of heel. I use the word heel unless you want to use a different word.
Yeah, we use
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a couple of modifications. We're gonna say the word heel first, and then you're gonna start walking with your left leg, okay? So it'd be heel, and then left leg, and then everything kicks in, okay? So you're gonna cue that. I'm gonna have you do that 5 times. You're gonna say heel, you're gonna start with your left leg, walk for a little bit, turn, slow down to a stop. He should automatically sit, otherwise we tap him, wait a moment, heel, left leg, and we're gonna just get that muscle memory going, okay? Heel.
Heel.
Good, and slow to slow turn. Good turn. And then slow down to a stop here. Tap. Good, relax, good. Heel, left leg.
Heel.
Good, slow to slow turn. And slow to stop. Good. So right there on that first one, when you pull back, so you're actually recognizing when to correct him, but
Looking at that guy.
correct. But right there, when he was looking at that guy, he started to pass you up. So
Yeah.
what will we do instead?
Because that's the kind of situation that he'd get aggressive with.
Uh-huh.
Because when somebody is doing something that's a bit different
Mhm.
than an average person in
Mhm.
how they're comporting themselves, moving themselves around, he gets very focused on it.
Sure.
And so I was thinking he's going to go after
But the
that.
question is, what should you do?
That's what I did was I jerked him,
Correct. And what do we want to do instead?
tap him, I guess.
Tap and turn.
Right.
Because you're correct. He was doing something out of line, right? He started to get suspicious, but he got suspicious and then started to pass. So right there, that's when I would turn and correct, because you're making him more aware of you than he's aware of all this stuff. Because that's where all that reactivity was coming from, which is overstimulation, caring about too many things, and getting frustrated. Okay, because we're back at the same location from our consultation. Remember the consultation? Everything, he was kind of like this, and then barking and getting really worked up.
Demand barking, yes.
Yeah, and you showed up kind of like that here today.
Yeah.
We went to 55, and now he's been chill,
Yeah.
right? And not vocalizing and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we went to 65 because 55 wasn't enough to get him to stick to our hip.
Right.
We're at 65?
Yeah.
So, so you're actually recognizing when to correct, so that's good. We just want to change how we correct. I don't mind the leash pops, but if he's starting to pass you up, that you always want to do the turn, tap, back to the side.
I just figured the way you said it was like pop was somewhat similar because it's like teeth.
Yes.
Either way he's getting the nip, you know? Like,
Right, so like, let's say he's walking with you, and he does this, you could leash pop, because he's staying next to you. Or you could tap, and he goes back to this. Kind of what you did when you were stationary, right? He was looking at the dog, and you tapped him, and it didn't work, you tapped again, and he went, oh, boom, like that, right? So it's a, in my opinion, more effective or efficient leash pop, because it's just press a button.
Yeah. And plus you just look at it like, I don't know. I feel better giving a tap.
Excuse me.
Less like manhandling of the dog.
Yeah, I could see that. Let's try 3 more, heel.
Heel.
Hard to break that.
There you go, good. It's really common. Because it's natural for us to go to physical, and pulling back is super common. Yep, now slow to a stop here. Good, good, right? Heel, left leg.
Heel.
Good. And slow to stop. Tap, tap, good. So start getting a little alert with the cart, right?
Yeah.
Good, one more, heel.
Heel.
Good. Slow to stop. Yep, tap. Good. Let's go ahead and swap handlers. Swap. Swap.
I was just thinking, one of the questions I had during the week when he's like doing a free dog and I want to get him back into mode.
Yep.
So heel would be the command.
Correct.
Okay.
Now the way I teach heel, because some trainers teach heel as come to my heel, I don't teach it that way. I teach it as now we're walking, right? So if he's peeing and pooping here and he's done, heel, because he's right there. Does that make sense? But you would start your movement. You wouldn't say heel, stay stationary and expect him to come here. It would be heel when we start walking.
I feel like heel has traditionally meant get over by me, and let's go has meant get moving. But I don't know. I guess it's use either one.
That's I'm actually, most trainers do what you're saying, but it's never made sense to me. I teach finish as come to my side, and then heel is now we're going. So like what he said was heel is come to my side, and then let's go would be the walk. That makes sense because it's two different words for two different behaviors.
Right.
So just to clarify, the way I teach it is heel is we start walking, the dog walks with us. If you wanted him to come to you, that would be like a Hank come recall type command.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you're gonna say the word heel and then left forward with your left leg.
Heel.
Good turn. Good. Now slow walk, but keep forward. Right, tap forward.
Okay.
Yep, keep forward, tap,
4.
tap, keep forward. There you go, tap, keep forward, there you go. Yeah. Now slow turn. And then you're gonna slow to a stop. Right? That's fine. Tap, tap, good. Heel, left leg.
Heel.
So right there, what I had just talked about earlier, right? It's like if he's passing by, he was at your hip, but then he started to get stimulated by the dog. And you tapped him and he was redirecting to your left leg because that's his reference point right now, okay? Now ideally you would step aside, but in a moment like that, when that person is stationary and you have to pass him, that's how that would look. Tap, there you go, and then relax, good. Good, heel.
Heel.
Good turn. And slow. Stop. Tap. Good. 2 more. Heel.
Heel.
Good turn. Try speeding up a little. Then slow. Good, then stop. Good, nothing there because he sat. One last one, heel. Good. And you're gonna slow and stop right by that pole right there. There you go. You can tap. Up on your leash. There you go, and then relax. Good, okay? So, a couple of things here. 65 is working really well. Okay, so when that happened right there, it looks like he was training his dog too, right? He was passive, and then right when you got like within this kind of spectrum, his hackles went up and the tail went up. And you tapped, and right away you saw everything start to go down. I think you did about 4 taps, okay? And immediately just redirected, okay? Because that dog was passive about 15, 20 feet. So all that was working well in that situation. When you're at the appropriate number, it should be that straightforward. Okay. So if you're like, man, this isn't working, it's because you're too low. Okay. So, yep. Then up on your leash, and then relax. Good. Okay. So now, from what I'm seeing right now, I think earlier I said start at 50 or something, right? But it looks like your number is going to be around that 65-ish range. Okay, when you have that good contact, because earlier you were tapping him and I didn't see any contraction, but right now I saw the big twitch, but he's not going, bah! Right? He's feeling it and responding in the way that we want him to. So he is getting the correction and processing like, okay, don't do that and focus on mom. Okay, and you're able to do more kind of back and forth. In the beginning, you're turn, turn, turn. Okay, so that's why that 3 correction rule is so important, because it helps you get to that answer faster. Because that's the most common thing that people would complain with in the beginning. Because I didn't always do verbal instruction. I would show you, then then give you the dog. They're like, how do I know when to turn up? So I was like, all right, well, every 3 times you turn, if the dog isn't on your hip, we go up 5 levels. Okay. Questions on any of this so far?
Yeah.
So the reason why we say heel and then the left leg is dogs have a wider peripheral range than we do. So for Hank, if you're here and you say heel and he sees your left leg move, that becomes his visual cue of now we're walking. Okay. In more advanced training, left leg means walk with me, right leg means don't move. Okay. And all we do is condition that by making sure that when we move, we use the correct, exactly. Okay. So now what we're going to go into are the turns. So last week, whenever Hank got ahead of you, it was always 180 pivot like this. That is forever going to happen. Okay. However, it should become much, much less over time that you would have to do a correctional turn, because he's learning the concept of walking at your side. Okay. So we're going to start first with the crossover turn. The crossover turn is a left turn crossing over Hank. Okay. So here, when you're walking, you would slow down first, and then you're going to cross with your right leg at a sharp 9-degree angle, left leg, and then you're going to cross over again with the right leg to go this way. Mm-hmm. Correct, but you would be on his outside.
Right.
Okay, because he got up and he got misplaced. So if you use the sidewalk as your guide and you walk on the edge, it's right, left, right, like this. Okay, so if we were on a normal sidewalk, you would stay within the width of it. Okay, so always slowing down first. Hank should slow down with you. If Hank keeps going, he's not paying attention. So don't try to cross over. Instead, pivot turn, tap, and correct them back to your hip. Okay. So one more time, we walk, slow down, right, left, right, and very pronounced steps. Okay. If you do baby steps, he's not going to see what you're doing. He's going to keep going.
And am I tapping while I'm
No.
doing that?
He should be at your side. Okay, there should be no tapping, because this is all body language. The only time you're tapping is if Hank gets out of line or ahead of you, or is like looking at something over here he shouldn't. Okay. The next turn is
So he's going to screw up the first few times we do this.
Yes. Okay. But you wouldn't remote him. Okay. I'll coach you through it. The next turn is the pivot turn, which is technically the turn we did last week, but this one is communicated. Okay. So last week it was abrupt. If you got ahead of you, just turn. Okay. This one, you would slow down and you're going to go left, right, left, and now we're going this way. Okay. So it's left, back on right, left, this way, left, right, left. Okay, which people tend to naturally do when they turn, but when I tell them to do it on purpose, they screw up because you're too much up here. Okay, so you're gonna make mistakes, don't worry about it, but I'll coach you through it. We're gonna start first with the batch of the crossovers. Okay, so that's gonna be the right, left, right turn a few times, and then we're gonna go to the pivot turns. Okay, and every time you come to a stop and start to move, you're gonna say heel and walk with your left leg first. When you're ready, and then you're going to slow and take your time, and when you're ready, cross that right leg. Right, left, right. Good. Now forward. You got it. Good. And slow. Get ready. Right, left, Right. Good. Forward. But you see how he's like pausing, and he's seeing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And slow. Now here, pivot turn, because he's ahead of you.
Oh.
You see how that was awkward? So that's where you would do a pivot turn tap.
Got it.
Okay, let's try that again. Left, right, much better. Let's try a couple more. Slow. So that one you just turn and you led left leg.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, there you go. Left, right, good. Remember, slow down first. Turn, yep, tap. There you go. Good. Forward, good. Hug to the right to give yourself space. Good. Yep, like that. Good, let's try two more. Right, left, right. Good, one more. Better. And slow to stop. Good. Now you're gonna do the pivot turn. That's gonna be left, right, left. Left, then back on right. Now left. Yep, like that. Good. Tap. Good. Because you did your job, but he kept going. Okay. Bike. Do two more. Yep, good job. One more. And slow to stop. There you go. And tap. Good. Let's go and swap handlers. Very good. We're going to start with those crossovers first, okay? All right, good. Left, right, good. Three more. Good. And last one, or two more technically, so you're facing towards us. Good. Last one. There you go. And then slow to stop. Tap. There you go. Good. So those were all good, but we forgot one thing, right? Do you know what it is?
I'm not sure.
The slowdown. So here, because Hank is in a more, focused state, and this is a training session, he can pick up those turns no problem. But when you're in an actual walk for like 20 minutes and then you try to cross over, that's where you're going to collide with each other because it's too abrupt. Okay, but because his steps were pronounced, like he was going like this, and you could even see Hank wincing, like kind of like going back because he doesn't want to collide with the leg.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's
I could see the wincing.
I never tapped it though.
Yeah, no, you don't have to. It was because he saw your leg coming in, but you were very assertive in that turn like this when you turned in, that for Hank, he was doing this because he doesn't want to collide.
Yeah.
That's how that's supposed to work.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, because you're thinking, you're more hesitant, right? But once you get used to it, assertive moves, dogs read better.
Okay.
Okay, now we're gonna try the pivot, left, right, left. Yeah, good. Good, couple more. Good, and slow to stop. Good. Alrighty. Questions?
No, nothing has occurred to me.
So what we just covered there is communication. Okay. Heel tells Hank, pay attention to me. Your job is then to make sure he's paying attention, which is just the number. And then 2, communicate. Okay, because you know when you're stopping, you know when you're going to turn, which direction you're going to turn, you know that stuff. So that's why I say it's like driving. Like you can't just abruptly stop and expect the person behind you to be in your head and know.
Right.
You have to pump your brakes. Okay, so slowing down before a turn, slowing down before a stop. Okay. Same thing, like we put our blinkers on, so like your legs are like your blinkers.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've been kind of using that slow down as a cue with him. Like if I feel like he's going to start getting ahead of me, I'll slow down, and then I'll notice he'll get a little bit better. Or when we're coming to a crosswalk, I'll slow down.
Yep. Always want to slow down prior to a stop or a turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what I wouldn't do is if you see him get ahead of you, because that's very common, is that people will slow down to see, is the dog, yeah, let's watch here. Is they'll slow down, tap. There you go, he's good. Is they'll slow down to re-engage the dog, but you want to technically let him try to pass so that you can turn and correct him and catch him off guard.
All right.
Okay.
I guess I was giving him the opportunity to realize the error of his ways.
That's what everybody does. That's why I say I say this all the time in every session, people give dogs the opportunity to do the good thing as opposed to using the opportunity to make the dog do a good thing.
Right.
Okay? Because remember, he's not going to one day wake up and, like you said, see the error in his ways.
Yeah.
He goes by what you give him. Okay? And if you're like, hey, you can't bark at dogs, you can't do this, you can't do this, when I say this, you do this, right? He's gonna do his own thing because it benefits him. The whole adage of like, oh, this dog really like wants to please you or please their human is bullshit. Okay, dogs are self-serving. Okay, they don't think to themselves like, you know what, I'm gonna make my mom happy today, right? Because if they did, I probably wouldn't be here, right? Because dogs would be pleasing their owners.
Right.
So here, make them be good. The more consistent in black and white you are, the more black and white he's gonna be with you. Okay. So your homework for this week: start applying the word of heel. Every time you go from stationary to motion, and then break or free dog is your release of now you're done. And then when you're ready to cue it again, heel, we start walking, okay? When you come to a stop, Hank's job is to keep that butt on the ground. So you would just up and tap to correct them. We wouldn't say sit. Start your numbers, your walks at 50. I think you're gonna find yourself going to 65, 70-ish range.
Okay.
And finding your walk's gonna be really good at that range, okay? And then next week when I see you, I'll check in. What's your number been? Yeah, Jesse, 70s, that's the number. No reactivity, walks really well. Barely have to tap them, barely have to turn. I go, great. Now let's move on to the next thing. Okay? Questions?
No. Not on any of this.
Okay. Questions on something else?
I'm just thinking about maybe this is something that'll happen down the line. I know like food guarding is really hard.
Yes. So, is there anything that he absolutely goes crazy for?
Well, it's when there's another dog around.
Oh, resource guarding with other dogs.
Yeah, well, actually, I gave him a bone, like a high value, like raw, meaty bone. And this week I just came over by him, and he started growling at me.
Yeah.
And I got mad at him, and I made him, we were in the basement, and I made him leave the basement. He wouldn't leave the bone, but when I said, come on, let's go, we're leaving the basement, he did drop the bone. I didn't let him keep chewing on it, but I wasn't sure what to do there because
one thing
you gave me some pretty serious growls with that bone.
Yeah. First thing is, don't take it personally.
No, I didn't.
Right? But that means don't get mad at him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got mad at him.
Because remember, emotions make things worse. They escalate the situation. It is what it is. Okay? Because that's how he is. Because I bet you he's got a bone and you get near him, he growls, and then you leave and he shuts up and he goes continuing his bone. Right? He doesn't sit there going, getting near me while I'm chewing my bone, right? Like he doesn't build on that.
Sometimes he'll do that with a treat. He'll get a treat and he'll take it and go run in the corner.
Oh, sure, but that's part of resource guarding. See, because he's going, you gave me this, it's a value, and I'm going to take myself away, right? But he's not sitting there thinking like, I don't want you bothering me while I'm eating. Does that make sense?
Okay.
It's when you create the moment, he's in it, but when you leave, he doesn't reflect on it.
Okay.
He's just, okay, you're gone, great, I'm going to enjoy this, okay? So don't take it personally. What I would do is anything that he would have for an extended period of time, like a raw bone or whatever, just don't do anything with them for a bit, okay? So that this way, when we start the resource guarding process, he's gonna be really like, oh, it's back, okay? And I'm gonna show you how to teach him how to release and out and all that stuff, but I would remove any bully sticks, bones, antlers, anything he'd have for a period of time, just put them away. He doesn't get anything until we're ready for the resource guarding stuff.
Okay, so I should take that all away now.
Correct.
Like not let him have that.
Correct, because we'll probably visit that in 2 weeks. So not next class, but the following one. Okay. So that this way, when we bring it out to work with it, he's like, oh shit, I haven't had a treat in 2 weeks, okay? So that, because once we start putting discipline behind the resource guarding, we tend to see a dip in interest or drive for the object. Because remember, it's not as fun when he doesn't have control, right? When you start to put rules on things, you might start to see him go like, all right, well, this raw bone isn't as fun anymore because now I can't protect it, okay? So I would stay away from that for now. Typically by the 3rd class, what we cover is recall. If you want to work on that, we can start that next class unless there's issues with reactivity or something. Otherwise, plan for that. 30-foot leash is what we use, a regular long nylon leash, not a flexi leash. They're on Amazon, $8 to $12, nothing fancy. Okay? Questions?
No.
So we'll plan for that next class unless something else pops up, and then we'll plan on resource guarding for the 4th class.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you have any questions?
No. One thing I think is in terms of dealing with him is if you use your hands, that's a problem for him. Mm-hmm. Like when I get into bed, I start to get under the covers and I shove with my feet.
Sure.
I don't get any issues.
Yeah.
And when he was out, when I had needed to get something away from him or whatever, I wouldn't say I've kicked him, but I've shoved him real hard with my legs.
Yeah.
And that actually is effective if you can get your leg to him. You know.
The reason why that works is because, so what he's doing is technically correct. Is he's not going for the object, he's going for Hank. People tend to go for the object, right? So like if my Chihuahua will take my pit's bone from her sometimes, and he doesn't go for the object. He'll walk up to her and then push her out. He's 8 pounds to her 60, by the way. He'll literally just shoulder in and she backs off. And then he just sits down and takes the bone. He doesn't go for the bone, he goes for her. So that's why that works. Just be mindful of it because he can always become aggressive. He can always escalate, okay? And when we do resource guarding, we actually don't punish resource guarding. We teach him how to release an object and surrender it to us so that we don't even see it in the first place, okay? It's easiest to work with or around it than it is to try to approach it directly.
I think that his whole thing when he was brought up by, some crazy people that I think they just mistreated him.
No, it's genetic.
So
it's genetics.
Probably, played tug until they got what they wanted from him, or I don't know what.
Genetics. It's instinct.
Really?
Because he doesn't know that when you give him the bone that it's a gift from Kaiser's. I have a couple right now. They got their golden retriever at 2 months, and at 2 months, the first day they got him, he was already resource guarding.
Wow.
He's 5 months down. He bit the husband, right? At 5 months, and it's a golden retriever. But that's just instinct. Yeah, because you're guaranteed 3 meals a day as long as you can put food on the table with money. He doesn't think that way. So when you give him something, you're literally surrendering it. And so what we want to teach him is like, hey, I'm surrendering this, but I can also make you surrender it so I can take it back.
Yeah.
Okay? So we'll cover it. I would avoid that stuff for now, remove any of the high value stuff so that when we come back in 2 weeks, we have something to work with. Okay? I got to head back, guys. It was a pleasure. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay?